Hello guys, welcome to the most amazing channel on the YouTube, Java Python Interview Hub. In this particular tutorial, we will create a complete Spring Boot REST API CRUD operation. So please stay with this video, like, comment and subscribe to this Java Python Interview Hub. Here we will create a one complete CRUD operation, and also later on I will create interview preparations for this Spring Boot. So without wasting any single minute, let's start practical session. File, new, and let's create one Spring Starter project. In this Spring Starter project, we will create a Spring Boot REST API. So Spring Boot REST API. Let's click on the next. Here we will have to give the dependencies that we need. So first of all, we will create a Spring Web. Then after, we need one database. I'll using MySQL, and then after Spring Data JPA, Spring Data JPA, and let's move to the next. So by using this, we are able to create what? So we are able to create a complete Spring Boot operation. Here it is generating now. In this content, see, it is generating still, and now we are ready with the project structure. So here our main application.java file is there. Resources, we have application.properties file for the database configuration, and in SRC there is a main resource and testing file is there. But the first of all and the most important file is the pom.xml. Here we will have to specify the dependencies that we need in this. So you can see that we have already the dependencies in our list. Using that dependency, we are able to get the jar files. So now let's move to the application.property file to configure our database. Here we have one Hibernate dependencies, data source URL, data source username, data source driver class name, and then after Spring JPA, right? So let's create it. So Spring dot JPA dot Hibernate dot DDL hyphen auto property. We will make it a update. Then after Spring dot data source dot URL, we will give it a name. I have a JDBC colon MySQL colon / localhost. Port number of MySQL is 3306, and I'll give the name Spring underscore boot underscore REST underscore API. Okay. Then after Spring dot data source dot username, and it is by default root for any computer who are using MySQL. Then after Spring dot data source dot driver class name, and that is what? com dot mysql dot jdbc dot driver. And the last one is spring dot jpa dot show, and that is true. So here we have all the properties right now. Okay, let's start creating our entity. So creating new class with the entity package, and I'll create one student entity, right? So I'll just give the name only student. Then after, let's annotate this with the @entity annotation, and for the Java X or Jakarta dot persistence, we will have private long employee ID, private string employee name, and private double salary. So all three variables are there. Let's create first of all one default constructor. So I'll just make the name students to employee. Okay, so let's create one employees default constructor, one parameterized constructor, right click, source, generate constructor using fields. We are using Eclipse here, so that facility is by default given. Then after, getter setter for all the variables, select all, then generate. Let's make ID primary key with this annotation. Let's make its auto increment with generated value, and strategy is equal to generation type dot identity. So using this, we are able to create it primary key and auto increment. So now our entity class is done. Let's move to the repository. In that repository, we will create one interface that will extend the JPA repository. So in this package, new interface, I'll make it repository. I'll give the name employee repository. I will extend this one with JPA repository and give the name of class that we are going to add with, and the primary key variables data type. So our primary key variable is EID and the data type of that particular variable is long. So in this particular repository, we don't have to fill anything else. Next is, let's create a service interface. So in this new, I'll create interface with employee service, and in this employee service, we are implementing all our CRUD methods. For that, let's create employee service with the like employee, return type employee, and we'll give the name save employee. Then after, we'll pass the employee object. Next is list employee with the name fetch employees with no parameter given. Then after, single employee, we will fetch get employee, but by parameter long EID, right? Next is employee update employee, update employee with primary key, long EID and the employee object. Then after string delete employee by employee ID. So we have created all the CRUD operations method in this. Now we will implement that particular interface to given the logic of all these methods. So we will create employee service implementation in this service package. So let's create a class employee service implementation. Let's implement employee service. So we'll have to define all the methods in this particular class. Just a minute. So for that I'm just clicking on this and add unimplemented methods. So it will implement all the structure method here. Now we will give the logic of that particular, but for that we need one annotation to our this class @service annotation. Then after we will need employee repository, that will be auto-wired. So private employee repository, I will make it auto-wired, so it will fetch automatically. Now in the save employee method we will just return what? So we will just return employee repository dot save method with employee object E, nothing else. Okay, for the fetch employee we will get list of what? Employee, right? Now all employees is equal to employee repository dot find all, and I have make one mistake, I just have to put this code in the fetch employee. Okay, and we will return all employees. Now in a get employee method we are using optional of Java util for employee class. I'll just get one employee object for employee repository dot find by ID, and I'll provide the employee ID. If I'll make sure if employee dot is present, if we will get the data, then after return employee dot get method that will give object employee dot get, and otherwise we will return the null. So we are getting error here. I just have to call it using employee dot get method that will give a single object, otherwise we will return what? Null. In the update employee method, again what I'll do here, in this method first of all we will get optional of employee for I'll get employee one object using employee repository dot get by id, I'll provide the id. Okay, sorry, my mistake. That is find by id, I'll provide the id. So here we have a one object that we have provided already, employee id. Now I'll check if employee1 dot is present. If it is present, right, then employee original employee is equal to employee1 dot get. So we will get the object by id if, in this particular case, if objects dot non null, what? So employee that we have in our argument e dot get ename, and then not equal to blank dot equals ignore case e dot get ename, then original employee dot set ename is equal to e dot get ename. Okay, same we will have to create for salary. So I am just copying it and pasting it. So objects dot get salary, I'll make it here. I'll make it here. E dot get salary not equal to 0. Then original employee dot set salary is equal to E dot get salary. So what we will return now? So if this is all done, then after return employee repository dot save with original employee. Otherwise, if is not present, we will return what? Null. Simple. Now for the delete operation, if employee repository dot find by id, I'll provide eid dot is present, then employee repository dot delete by id and I will provide the eid, and then after we'll return string that employee deleted successfully. Simple. Okay, otherwise no employee found, right? So this is our mostly important service implementation. Now let's move to the final part of our employee controller. For that, I will create new class, will give the name controller and will give the name employee controller. Now I will just make it @REST controller. I'll make private employee service and will make it @AutoWired. Now let's bring all the methods with the different methods. So first of all, public employee, that save employee with employee object E, but with @request body employee object, and I'll call return employee service dot save employee method. Right, I'll make it with @post mapping with the URL /employee. Now same here, I'll give method public list of employee with get all employee, and I'll return employee service dot get, let's check the method name. Oh, fetch employees. Let's move to the fetch employees. Then after fetch employees, I'll make it annotation @get mapping /employee. Now we'll give public employee get employee by long EID. I will provide path variable. I'll give the name ID with a long EID. Let's return employee service dot get employee with EID. Now let's make it @get mapping, but here we will provide employee, then after ID. Okay, for the update, let's create a method with public employee update employee. Let's correct the name with update. Yes, we have update employee. path variable of id. I'll provide long eid, and then after request body with employee object. So employee object e. Now we will return employee service dot update employee with eid. Let's create put mapping with employee name and with id, right? And the last one is what? So our delete method. So for that, let's create public string delete employee with path variable, give the name id, will provide the long eid, and return employee service dot delete employee. Let's give the delete mapping with employee and with id. So this is a complete CRUD operation of Spring Boot REST API. Using that, you are able to create and test in a softwares like Postman and any other software. So if you like this video, please subscribe to this channel, Java Python Interview Hub, and please comment if you need any more videos on Spring Boot. I'll create Spring Boot REST API, I'll create Spring Boot Microservice, I'll create Spring Boot security. So please comment in this video. Thank you very much guys for joining with me. We will meet next for that type of amazing Spring practicals. Thank you very much.